I would guess it's almost indisputable that the Leatherman Wave is the best-selling multi-tool of all time. But it's not perfect, and we've tried to show ways in which you can enhance it. But there are some things out of the factory that could be improved, such as ergonomics. The Charge Plus, which has a very well-rounded set of aluminum handles, is a little bit more comfortable than the Leatherman Wave at the same weight. Obviously more expensive, but there are things we could do to this to improve how comfortable it is when we gripping it very hard. Now, when we're using a plier, this is very comfortable and you don't have to worry anything about it. But it's a whole different ball game when you're using a blade for a long period of time. There's a lot of sharp edges that dig into your hand, but you can actually knock those corners down and not affect the warranty of the tool. It's kind of a lot like sharpening, but we're going to do that for the frame itself. So we're going to find all of those little edges that are not so comfortable, and we're actually going to take a new implement that I just pulled out of our kit, and we're going to utilize this. Now, I've used sandpaper wheels like this one in the past, but this one is really cool, and I'm going to show you exactly why that is. So let's go ahead and get right to it. All right, now we're all mostly familiar with the Leatherman Wave. It's been around for a while. The general styling, the frames, most of these things have not changed in its entire run. And its longevity and popularity speaks for itself. That does not mean that it cannot be slightly improved. And keeping in mind that the changes we're going to make today, these take a lot of time. So if they were to be done in the factory, people would not buy this tool. Essentially, they would be like, well, why would I pay $150 for that? It's still the same materials. And they would be sort of correct. But I think ergonomics is kind of an important factor, especially if you use your tools regularly. Where that really matters is if you have some situation where you're out in the woods and you don't have gloves, you're going to wear, into your hand. And that's not very enjoyable. You can make this better. So we're going to first talk about the tool, and then we'll get to the grinding wheel itself. So on the Leatherman Wave, if we're assuming that we're using the straight blade in this context, what are the sharp edges, the sharp areas that you'd have to knock down to make it more comfortable? Well, the first place that shows up is right here, this little point. I'm actually never quite sure why they didn't just make this a continuous curvature. It just would have been far more comfortable. This point ends up setting into your hand a little bit more than it needs to. Now, this is probably one of the least necessary adjustments, but it is one of the points that we will talk about. The other thing is if we go to the back, now where your hand is sitting, you're also going to run into the edge that is next to the file, and on top of that, if you look right here, both that corner and this edge can be sharp. Now on this file, it's actually nicely rounded, so this one won't be as much of a problem. But as I will show you on the saw, it's a whole nother ball game. This corner is not really as much of an issue, but something you can consider adjusting as well. Now, if you look at the back of the serrated blade, these are chamfered edges, and these edges are actually still pretty sharp. It's pretty easy for us to go ahead and smooth this out so that it is not particularly sharp. We can also get rid of that bump and just kind of make it a nice smooth curvature. But the real culprit here, the one that really matters, and we'll close this for just a second, is right here at the back of the saw. Not only is this edge particularly sharp, but also that corner right there, the corner at the back right here, and this whole edge. Now we can do all of the fixes for this without adjusting or affecting the usefulness of the saw at all, including its ability to strike a ferroceram rod, because the inside edge will always be usable, this one right here. So depending on which you're pulling it this way or you're pulling it this way, you'll have the inside edge in which to strike a ferroceram rod on as well. So you're still not losing that functionality of the tool. You can also use the can opener as well for that functionality. So that's one of the things we're definitely going to knock down. Now we do have to be careful because this is also the stop, which happens right here for the saw. So we're gonna round this edge, but we're not gonna mess with the inside anyway, so that it comes in proper contact with the frame. And none of these things should affect, in any way, shape, or form, should affect the warranty. These are akin to wear and sharpening of a knife, and none of those things are going to void the warranty on the Leatherman Wave. And I just got this. This is the first time I'm using it, and this is so much easier. My God, why did I not know about these in the past? So this is Dremel's little system for quick deploy. So check this out. All you have to do is press in, and this thing slides out like so, and look, it just falls right out. Amazing. So you put it back in, and that goes on really easy, and then push that in, and I can't get it out now. What a simple, elegant solution for this. And this came in that same kit that we talked about a couple episodes ago. So this is the kit I've been pulling from. I'm using a metal cutting wheel with their little quick disattach system, and this is also in there as well. And this is pretty much everything that I use. All right, so we have the saw mounted up in the clamp here. This is the biggest area that we want to knock down first, this whole corner. And you don't have to do the whole thing. You can stop right about right here, because all of this is buried under the frame. So from this area right here to the back is really the area we're going to focus. All right. Now, obviously, for this modification, looks are definitely a secondary thing. We definitely care more about how comfortable it is than how nice it looks. So let's close that up. Let's see. Yeah, that's a much better feel already. Now on the inside, it's still very sharp, but on the outside, nice and rounded. Now, I will say this, that wheel grinds a lot faster than I expected. I mean, you really, really have to push softly. Do not push too hard. You will definitely eat into it quickly. Which makes me wonder if we should be very, very cautious when we're doing the back of this serrated blade, which is what we're going to work on next. Okay, so when we're grinding down the back of this serrated blade, I'm going to try to be as careful as possible. And as I said, I have done this primarily using the Canyon blade grinder because it offers kind of a convex grind to it. With this cutting wheel, cutting disc, or whatever you want to call it, I'm going to have to be very careful to keep the same pressure as I'm doing this process. Otherwise, I'm going to take a lot more metal than I think. These wheels are really, really, really good. They're taking a lot of metal off with a very little pressure. That's a good sign, but in this context, there might be a better way. And if you think you know a better way to do this, other than doing it by hand, of course, which probably would make more sense, but it doesn't make for very good content. So, other than that, is there a particular implement that would work better? Let me know. All right, now actually in this part, let's take a look and see how I've done so far. It's not bad. It's better. Now, this isn't going to look particularly beautiful, because I'm not going to show using sandpaper on top of it. But the important thing here is to show that you can do it yourself and that you can get a very, very comfortable edge. Now what happens is, that's the part that's sticking into my palm. As you can see, this is what's sticking in my palm, so I want to make sure that that edge especially is as fine as possible. Now I'm going to do a little bit more with it in my hand so you can see what it is I'm doing here. Much better. Okay, for this part, this is probably the part that's the easiest to mess up and mess up badly. When you are trying to smooth this out, now obviously they have done an okay job already, but to actually shape this area without making it worse is quite difficult. So I hesitate to recommend that you do this yourself. Without the proper tools, it's very difficult. So I'm gonna try it, because like I said, this wave is going to go ahead and, I'm gonna destroy the warranty in this thing by the time I'm done. But I don't recommend this one for you to try at home with your wave that already has its warranty. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Now notice here that I'm holding it in my hand because I have to look down on it and carefully remove it without hitting this frame. It's part of the difficulty of it. Now I probably should switch to a coarser cutting wheel, and or grinding wheel, and I'm gonna go ahead and do that and see if it makes a difference. Doing this is super easy. I'm just gonna go ahead and press this down, pop that out. I've never had a system that worked this well for these types of wheels. Normally it's quite difficult to get on. See, that's it. Boom. Easy. We're already making it far more rounded. I really wish they had done this to begin with, because having this be from here to there, like, there's a lot more metal you can remove, but probably won't do that in this video. Just enough to kind of knock it down a little bit. We'll go a little further, and then I'm going to fillet those edges as much as I can.
From here, we go ahead and just start rounding up corners, but this one makes sense.
You know, that is better, I will admit. So maybe it is worth it if you're really committed to the concept of making it more ergonomic. And also, because really this is about using the primary blade. I think the back of that serrated blade is probably the area you want to spend the most amount of time. Maybe this edge as well. Like I said, we're min-maxing here, so the best thing you can do is just to hold it in your hand and determine for yourself what makes the most sense. You're going to feel different hot spots, and it's just important to take it out and adjust it yourself. One of my absolute favorite tools is one of these. This is basically a soft sanding block, and the cool thing about it is it's relatively rigid, but it has some give. Now this is a fine and medium sanding block, And all I'm going to do is just take it to the back of this thing and knock down whatever edge I can. Now this is probably, once you get done the majority of the work with the grinding tool, what makes sense, because you want it to look good too. So I could take this all the way up to a polish, and I don't know if I will in this video, but it is something that you can certainly do. Very nice. Wow, that actually feels really good. Oh, that's definitely what you should do then. Let me show you. Yeah, that sanding block really added a nice finish to it. Really, really did. The other benefit to doing this is when you open up the pliers, and you have the potential to pinch your hands, you know, like that classic pinch. All of these changes to the corners here are going to create more of a gap and a rounded corner, which means it'll be less likely to actually pinch your hand, which is great. So that is a bonus on top of everything else that you get when you improve the ergonomics. All right, so how did we do? I would say we probably improved the ergonomics by maybe 20%. Not that much. It's a lot of effort to make these adjustments, which is probably why a lot of people choose to splurge a little bit more and get something like the Charge Plus. Now, this is about at the stage where we're ready to start moving into serious modifications, where we're going to be taking it apart, adding a bunch of new stuff. So that will be coming up in 2 weeks. Next week, on Friday, we're going to be revisiting all of the ideas that you guys had in my second video, where you could win this awesome Charge knife that I put together. There were so many good ideas. It's going to be a long video, but they're all really useful. And I'll give you a little sneak peek. I forgot about a lot of them because the key to many of them is this little pocket clip. So more on that next week. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk again soon.